for tuning in today, guys. This is Sean with Solis Review. Today we're going to be going over the Darkchylde quarter scale statue by PCS. The character Darkchylde was from the Top Cow publisher. It's a series that I don't believe is continuing still, but it's in the same world as the Darkness and Witchblade and other characters, if I understand correctly. At least the same publisher. I know that there were issues where she worked with each of those characters, though, so I believe it is linked. It's not a new statue. I believe it came out in 2011, 2012, somewhere in there. And we are going to go over it. For backstory, Darkchylde is a character that has... it's not a comic that I read a lot of, but I remember seeing back in the day, and the character can change into or bring to life whatever she has nightmares of. So that you see her changing into some sort of a demon-related creature here. So let's go over concept. How does it bring the comic to life? There was also actually a movie of it. I haven't seen it. It looks like some B-rated gold, but maybe I'll check that out sometime. Concept coming from the comic, obviously this is not a super realistic as far as detail-wise sculpture, so I believe that they were trying to go from the comics, and I think it's pretty darn close. This is the collector's edition. The black dress is the collector's edition. The regular edition is a red dress. I think I might actually prefer the regular edition. The red dress is a lot of what she actually wears in the comics. So I don't know necessarily the choice for the black dress. It could be something with the comic I'm not aware of, but that is the collector's edition. Also, collector's edition makes a blue tinted skin. Regular edition makes red tinted demon skin and demon wings. So a lot of changes there, depending on which version you like. So concept-wise, I think that they definitely hit the mark for what the comic is supposed to show you as far, it's pretty dead on, I think. Engineering-wise, this is, it's a pretty older statue, and engineering-wise, there's a lot of lessons that we've learned now, I think, for companies that maybe weren't there in the beginning. I've heard a lot about breakages. I noticed after getting this, I purchased it from, one of the fingers was repaired, so there's definitely breakages I've heard with wings and with the hand. I had difficulty getting her to peg into the base. It was, it was difficult. I had to give it a pretty good push there. The whole statue itself is very light. There's, it might weigh 12 pounds. It uses magnets to hold the dress lines that go down. The only pieces that are separate are the dress pieces, the base, the body, and the demon wings here. Packaging was good, very secure. I didn't notice a problem, although I have heard a lot of reports of damage in shipping, so who knows. Paint on it. Paint, it has some high points and some low points for sure. This, I believe, was a pretty highly regarded statue when it came out 8-9 years ago. The paint is a little odd for me in some places. The base is kind of this blood-covered skull pile with a teddy bear there. The teddy bear seems decently painted. It doesn't really strike me so much as a stuffed animal, as maybe like one of those sack kind of stuffed animals. And on the base here, beyond the stuffed animal, the blood that they're all sitting in is, I don't know, it is red, it is kind of shiny like a liquid blood, but it's weird, it feels not smooth. It's like it's got texture to it, but you can't see it. It's just whatever they used was a really odd process for me. I think maybe I'm just spoiled by Prime 1 gore. The skulls, the paint on the skulls, in some areas there's really good, details, cracks and shading in there. Some of the other skulls, it looks a little funny. There's, on all the skulls, there's a bit of a shiny gloss to it that, I don't know, doesn't look like bone necessarily to me. Moving up here, the dress it's very glossy, shiny, almost like a plastic dress versus a fabric. So it's very glossy. I can't say that it looks bad. It looks like a dress made out of trash bags, material. Which, depending on what kind of ladies you're into, I don't know. Looking at the skin tone, starting actually, I guess, at the feet, the toes, the toenail is a very poor paint job. It looks like someone spent, half a minute on each toe and just whoop, put it, toe shape general. It's all very monochromatic. There's no real detail. There's no depth to it. And that might have something to do with the sculpt a little bit, but either way, I'm not a big fan of what I'm seeing there. Skin tone wise, you get a sense of like that comic book cartoon kind of a lack of detail. The skin paint is, I wouldn't say a bad color, but it's very much just like peach skin color, no shading, no variation, all one color, probably very comic booky. Moving up here, when we get to the first demon part, the hand, that's one of the best parts of the sculpture here. The paint job, I think, looks good. It's got variations, blues and blacks. On the other version, it's reds and blacks. I think that it looks slimy, glossy, like a monster versus her smooth skin. I think that's a plus for sure. Like I said, going up the rest of her body, the paint job, there's no, variation of the skin. Where the dress has kind of a spiderweb, thin little line effects, I'd say that the paint isn't super clean there. It's not horrible, but you can see a little bleed from the skin onto the dress. As we move up here to her portrait, it definitely strikes me as a cartoon kind of a feel to it. And since they're going for that comic book cartoon kind of a feel, I get it. She is pretty, but there's just not a lot of detail. It's very plain. The makeup is, I wouldn't say the best I've ever seen, but it's an older piece. The hair paint, I see minor variations from yellow to a gold, trying to show this kind of a, I think a comic book sense of blonde. I'm not a big fan of it. A lot of that might be the sculpt though. I just don't get a lot of sense of realism from how this is painted. For the demon wings, those are one of the other great parts of this statue. It's the same as the hand essentially, almost the exact same paint kind of a scheme there. Makes sense, they're part of the creature. But it's blues and blacks. They're one of my favorite parts. You can see around where the wing comes out, they actually added some slight shading for kind of like an irritated red. So props that they did that. Also, there is a small ankle tattoo that's from the comics. It is not hand painted. It looks to be very clearly a decal that they just, put along it. So not super impressed by that. Yeah, I think that's it for paint. For sculpt, let's get into it at the base. The design on the base here, it's just a simple museum base here. this is definitely a museum pose. The base is just black. The sculpt, there's not a lot of detail obviously in the blood liquid. The sculpt of the bear is decent. I think that they could have added a lot of detail there. Sculpt of the skulls, they all look exceedingly large to me. I don't understand. And possibly it's because she's female and these are male skulls because she's killed everybody or something, but they look enormous. And unfortunately, where they group together, they look melted together and not separate. That's probably due to, this is an older piece. Biology wise, looking up, her toenails do not have like differentiation between them. It's just like a wave in between them, and it looks pretty glaringly obvious. Very Barbie-like on the dimensions for the body. Dress, I think, looks pretty decent for what it is on the form than what we're seeing. There's some cool dress effects of the spider webbing and things like that. The sculpt on the hand, I think, is pretty solid. It looks great. It makes me want to see what a fully transformed person would look like with this creature. So I think that that's a plus. As we get up to the body, as far as the musculature and the shape, I mean, she looks attractive. She looks great. It's, long legs and all that. When we get to the portrait, though, the hair has barely any differentiation. I mean, it's just waves in it, and they probably are going for more of that comic book look to it, but it's pretty apparent. The front strand of the hair, the bangs, you can see is a separate piece. There's like a dark ring where you can see the separation there. There is like a hairband in her hair that is, just it doesn't even look like it's barely in the sculpt. It's just somebody with a paintbrush added it. So it's not a whole lot of detail. I mean, it all follows in suit with the idea that this is a very low detail comic book related kind of a thing. There's some detail where the wings pop out of the back that looks kind of cool. I think they could have added more. I personally probably would have liked a bit more detail. But for the age and what they're going for, I do understand. For the wings, there's a lot of detail as far as like wrinkles and crackles and bumps and ridges of musculature for the demon parts. In between wing parts, pretty smooth. You'd expect that for just like stretched skin. It does have a pretty strong gloss on it though, but I think it all speaks to the sliminess of a demon kind of a thing. But for what it is and the age and the size, this was a really highly regarded piece back in the day. I think that, keeping that all in mind, it holds up for what it is. And so I'm happy with it for what it is. Overall, if you're a fan of the character, I think this is the only piece that exists for quarter scale of it. So if you're a fan of Darkchylde, this is an absolute must for you. My daughters and my wife love it. They love me getting female characters, and so I think I'll keep it around for that. And yeah, that's it. Overall, I give it a 2.5, 3 star out of 5. It really depends on what your taste is of what you're looking for. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Remember to like, subscribe, share. I appreciate all your chats. They're one of my favorite things to do, is to talk and interact with you guys. So please, let's keep this channel going, and I'll see you next time. This is Sean. Have a great day.